morning, Viking.TV. My name is Vlaho Carević and I'm going to be your local guide in my hometown of Dubrovnik. Time to take you on a short stroll around the most beautiful sights in the city. Welcome to the city's main street called Stradun or Plaza. This is the most beautiful street in the city, which divides our town into two major parts. The south part, which is called Laus historically, and the north part, which was believed to be a beautiful oak forest after which Dubrovnik was named after. Dub in Slavic languages means oak, and Dubrovnik was a city among the oaks. If you wonder what would be a perfect morning, as locals like to see, that would be finding a nice shady cafe and people watching and learning who went by where, who has something to do, because this is a small place where nobody minds their own business. Walking around the city, you will see that the construction material was stone. Requirements for stone and its high demand was when they decided to build city walls. They passed a law that anyone that visits the city had to bring a stone to contribute this always in demand material for the city's construction. With ticket in our hand, we can start our walk to the Dubrovnik city walls. And it's gonna be a challenge, but always remember you're on your holidays. This is not a race. Take deep breaths, and once you need to take a break, up hundreds of stairs on the city walls, definitely take your time and have your camera ready, a lot of water, and of course sun protection. Let's go. The most interesting monument in the city would be its city walls. Dubrovnik without its city walls would hardly ever exist in one of the most turbulent areas in the world, and that is the areas of the so-called Balkan Peninsula. Just above the top of the hill you had the Ottoman Empire, which was a huge threat to the Christian world, and Dubrovnik, with the fall of Constantinople, felt necessity to invest in its defensive systems. That's the reason why they decided to hire an architect called Michelozzi, who came here in the second half of 15th century and decided to modernize Dubrovnik city walls. Right behind me you can see St. Lawrence Fort, which was designed to protect the city from the western approach, and you can see the beautiful Adriatic Sea, and you can imagine here guards looking and trying to find any enemy ships trying to approach. Most of the time the greatest threat to the city of Dubrovnik was its rival, far bigger and superior state when it came to army and military, and that was Venetian Republic. Dubrovnik city walls, they are 1.2 roughly miles long, and it will take you about a good hour and a half to do the full loop and the full circle around the city, but it's definitely worth it. Just take a look at these beautiful red roofs of the city, still telling you the story. This city is not a museum, it's a living city. So try to find all these interesting little spots like people, their gardens, laundry hanging from the wires, and satellite dishes, and all the things that are not supposed to be there but are a part of life. Enjoy the view. This is one of my favorite views on St. Lawrence Fort, which was built in the 11th century in order to protect Dubrovnik against its biggest rival, and that's of course Venetian Republic, a far bigger and powerful state that Dubrovnik rivaled with its navy, and we tried to keep our independence from Venice, which was always trying to get their hands and claws over the freedom of our city. Right there on that fortress there is an interesting inscription on one of the doors which says that you don't sell your freedom not for all the gold in the world. If you wonder yourself what Dubrovnik jealously kept as a source of its power, the most profitable trade of all almost was something that today we take so for granted, and that is salt. Dubrovnik held salt monopoly on the south side of the Adriatic Sea, and 60 kilometers away from Dubrovnik there is a beautiful small town of Ston where they had over 50 salt pans which produced salt over the year. That salt was brought here by numerous ships that would come from the south side of the walls, and then it was pulled over here on the high cliffs in order to dry it and store it in these salt warehouses. One of the things you can never get tired of is admiring these beautiful gardens that you can find hidden away from the main street and crowded spots in the city. Just take a look at this green and lush combination of various flowers and trees, and that gives you an insight what it really feels like to live within this beautiful city of ours. So we're very fortunate to be here in August in the time of Dubrovnik Summer Festival, and that is the heart, the cultural heart of the year. What we do here is that every year, beginning in July, we have a ceremony where a group of actors impersonating this Old Dubrovnik Republic city officials such as Rector and various diplomats, they turn the city keys to the hands of actors, and then more than 60 locations such as these in the old city of Dubrovnik is used as setups for various theater plays. So imagine yourself seeing Othello or Hamlet or local theater plays, and in this unforgettable setting. Whenever you walk Dubrovnik city walls, don't forget to look for inspiration and awards to come after a long and hard walk. Take a look at my favorite spot called Buja Bar. If we have time, I would like to take you there for a drink myself. Speaking of cities' defenses, we can hardly imagine any without necessary equipment in forms of these cannons. These would be various replicas of once flourishing industry in the city, and that was forging our own cannons, which used to be up to 4.5 meters long. The legend is that one of those cannons, called the Big Lizard, was over 6 meters long, and it caused terror, just notion of it, to any enemy vessel trying to approach the city. Luckily, Dubrovnik used another art to survive, and that's not the art of war, it was the art of diplomacy, so these were just, most of the time, to scare people off. On Dubrovnik city walls you can find one of our city's most interesting museums, and that would be the Maritime Museum. At height of its power in 16th century, Dubrovnik had a commercial fleet. Over 160 over-ocean-sized ships sailed under white flag of Dubrovnik Republic. That white flag was a symbol of its neutrality, because Dubrovnik was a mediator between lands which were occupied by the Ottoman Empire and various Christian ports in the Mediterranean seas. Wherever you sailed with the white flag, and in heart of that flag you found a statue of Saint Blaise holding Dubrovnik in his hand, that was a symbol of neutrality and diplomacy. Inside of Maritime Museum you can find various maps, you can find various models of the ships produced in Dubrovnik, and definitely have a pleasant half-an-hour stay. So finally we came to the spot to avoid some heat and blazing sun in sunny Dubrovnik, and my perfect location for that, or my usual getaway spot, is Buja Bar. So please do join me and let's find this little gap As you can see, it doesn't look so spectacular, but once you go through this shortcut through the city walls of the city, we're gonna find one amazing and beautiful spot. This way. Summertime, beautiful and spectacular Adriatic Sea. This is what you want for yourself and your vacation. You simply take a seat at one of these beautiful spots, put some sun lotion on, maybe a swimsuit, and have a dip in the Adriatic Sea. Swimming in the Adriatic Sea, as the locals do, can seem frightening at first, but once you find some courage and inspiration of this beautiful sea, you will find these beautiful access points, like here on Buja Bar. You will find many of these steps and cemented platforms which make it easy to go to the Adriatic and enjoy a perfect summer day to take a good swim in the Adriatic Sea and see what actually it's most known for. Of course, when it's warm and when it's hot, someone needs a refreshment, and water supply was a much harder deal than it seems today. Bringing fresh and drinkable water to the city was one of the most challenging tasks for the old Dubrovnik government. Right behind me you can see the Onofrius fountain, which is the biggest fountain inside of the city. In 15th century, Italian architect was hired to do a mission impossible, and that's to bring drinkable water, running water, into the growing city of Dubrovnik. The problem was a relatively small height difference between the source of the water, which was 13 kilometers away behind that hill, just behind, and he had to find a way how to go all the way around and bring drinkable water into the city. Fortunately, in 1430s, the project was completed and the city authorities were overwhelmed with happiness, and its citizens, needless to mention. From that moment on, the Onofrius fountain is one of the city's centers where you can always find fresh and drinkable water. We're located in front of Rector's Palace, and those of you wondering what Rector Palace was a place where the leader of the city lived. Unlike most of Europe having their kings and queens, in Dubrovnik they were always worried to give power to one person or one family. That's the reason why the leader was changed every month, and each month a new ruler was imposed, not to give anyone enough time to get corrupted by its power. So within Rector's Palace, rectors lived and resided, and about the life of Rector, we're gonna meet one of this museum's curators that's gonna share that story for you. Dobro jutro, Marina.
Dobro jutro.
Kako si?
Odlično, ti?
Evo, dobro.
Drago mi je što ste došli u Knežev dvor i dođite unutra da vam pokažem palaču.
And now the time has come for us to pick brains of our museum curator Marina, that's gonna share some wonderful stories about this palace. So Marina, what can you tell us about the life of Rector?
Rektor je tu živio jedan mjesec, s obzirom da je njegov mandat trajao samo mjesec dana. I znači u tom periodu on je morao po cijele dane boraviti u Kneževom dvoru. Smio ga je napuštati samo po nekakvim ceremonijalnim ili državnim poslovima, a dok je živio u Kneževom dvoru sa sobom je tu mogao dovesti i svoju obitelj. Znači njegov radni dan je bio ispunjen raznim sastancima. Naime, on je bio kao glavni na svim tim vijećima, iako nije imao stvarnu političku moć, ali on je predsjedao velikim vijećem, malim vijećem i senatom. Njegova uloga je bila više ceremonijalna, on je predstavljao Republiku prema van, primao je u Kneževom dvoru strane diplomate, imali su tu svečanosti svoje na prvom katu. Na prvom katu je ujedno bio i njegov privatni stan, s obzirom da je tu živio mjesec dana, on je morao imati naravno i smještaj. Ta se stan sastoje od radne sobe, jednog središnjeg prostora i spavače sobe. On je tu jedno imao i dvorsku kapelu gdje su mu svaki dan služili mjesta.
So now time has come for us to see what Rector's daily life used to look like, and Marina is going to show us the first floor of Rector's Palace. So Marina is going to show us what receptions used to look like if we were actually going to meet the real rector.
Dakle, ovo je bila prijemna dvorana u kojoj su znači, ta svečana straža dočekivala goste i pratila ih je dalje u salone prema knezu koji je primao strane diplomate i visoke uzvanike.
So Marina, what can you tell me about these sedan chairs?
Nosinke su služile za prenošenje ljudima. Najčešće su se nosile žene, vladike, kako su ih zvali u Dubrovniku, i to je bila povlastica isključivo plemstva. I postojalo jedno pravilo, znači žene su nosile njihove ženske sluškinje, a muškarci njihovi muški sluge, znači nije se smjelo miješati. Znači, obožavali se izrađivanje.
Da. I guess there is no better place than Rector's office to learn about his daily duties. Marina, what can you tell us? What was the most significant part? I've heard that it has something to do with keys.
Da, tako. Možemo pogledati. Ovo su kopije ključeva gradskih vrata. Vrata od ploča i vrata od pila svaku večer su se podizala i zaključavala i sutra ujutro bi se otključavala. Knez je primao svaku večer ključeve, pospremao ih na sigurno u knežev dvor i ujutro bi ih dao da se odnesu vojnicima da mogu otvoriti vrata.
So, you're saying that Rector was not making any decisions himself?
Da. Znači, rektor je bio samo predstavnik vlasti, sva vlast je bila u rukama plemića, odnosno velikog vijeća i senata koji su donosili sve važne odluke, zakone i birali sve državne činovnike, znači knez je samo predstavljao vlast prema van.
So you're saying when somebody actually came to this table that the rector already knew what he's supposed to say and everything was prearranged.
Tako, znači on je dobijao gotove odluke, članovi velikog vijeća ili senata su pripremali nacrte, izglašavali ih, a on je samo u biti predstavljao tu vlast Dubrovačke republike prema van, prema stranima državljanima. Znači njegova funkcija nije bila da on sam donosi odluke, on je samo bio predstavnik Dubrovačke vlasti. On je predstavljao državu kao njezin najviši simbol.
We're located in a music room, and this is one of the museum's most interesting exhibits. It's pianino forte made by Anton Waller, who was quite famous piano maker. And what can you tell us about this exhibit?
Ovaj je piano za nas jako poseban zato što upravo majstor se spomenuo je napravio jedan vrlo sličan, gotovo identičan za samog novca. I ovo je jedan od rijetkih radnih sačuvanih primjera, što ga čini iznimno vrijednim i dan danas naravno se može muzicirati.
So Marina, when was the last rector in power?
1808. godine vladao je zadnji knez, to je bio Savo Đurđević, isti portret malo prije vidjeli. Znači kada su Francuzi okupirali Dubrovačku republiku, on je bio na vlasti i oni su 1808. godine ukinuli republiku i on je ujedno postao prvi gradonačelnik. Nakon pada Dubrovačke republike, knežev dvor je bio sjedište početka francuske vlasti, a nakon toga austrijske, nakon toga je u 20. stoljeću to je bila i rezidencija jugoslavenskih kraljeva, a negdje od 1950-ih tu se useljava i Dubrovački muzej.
A big thank you, Marina, for a wonderful tour of our Rector's Palace, and when visiting Rector's Palace, don't miss your photo opportunities and take many photos of this really iconic building. Right behind me you can see this beautiful stairway which will take us to the Jesuit Square, and that's where Jesuits formed the first university of such kind in 17th century, and that happens to be the place where I went to high school. So please do join me up the steps and take a look. After walking this beautiful stairway, you find yourself on a square right in front here of St. Ignatius Church, which is a Baroque church and was a very significant church for the Jesuit community. And behind me you can see the area where the actual Collegium Ragusinum, which started in the 17th century, was located in. Today it's a public grammar school where it's named after one of our most known scientists called Ruđer Bošković. On the main street in the city you can always find some of the old traditions still struggling to survive and compete with the modern day tourism. This is a family workshop that works in the city over 100 years, and here you can see the very youngest of goldsmith masters, and his name is Giorgio. Dobro jutro, Giorgio. So, are you going to take us inside and show some of your secrets on how do you do buttons?
Sure, we can do.
Please, let's go. So first of all, how old are you?
I'm 27 years old, and this job requires a lot of patience, so perhaps I'm a bit older in my soul, but yes. Basically, this work takes a lot of patience, and it seems simple, but it's kind of complicated, but it's a balance.
So you find balance working with the wires and folding them the way you like it?
Yes, because you have two types of people. Some will get angry and frustrated if something isn't working properly, but on the other hand it calms certain people down. So that second type of people. And it's nice, you just plug your headphones or something, listen to the music and enjoy the craftsmanship.
So why don't you do that, and we'll enjoy looking at your work. So you're saying that the button is made entirely from a string?
Yes, there are two types of wires. One is flat, another is like two wires twisted together.
Mm-hmm.
And so this one, the flat one, is the one from which we make the shape that gets filled with the second type of wire. So this is basically somewhere in between, and this is almost till the end of a button or a product. We begin by folding the wire, the shape. It's pure silver, nothing but silver, and so it's really soft and easy to control. This is just an old measurement tool. Everything is made by hand, so the whole process is from scratch. We melt the silver, make the wires. From the bigger, thicker wires you make smaller and more narrow profiles, from which then they are flattened and made into this wire. Once it's formed, we have to preheat it in order to make it even softer and be able to shape it more easily. Since it's silver, it's easily preheated and also cooled. It's one of its main cocktails. filigree technique comes from the east, so it's a bit Balkan Turkish influence, and it's filigree. It's like made of two words, wire and small granules. So basically, people would. It's a technique which you will see later on. These shapes get filled with different. Because the wire is twisted, it has different texture, so it differentiates from the shape. And usually they would use the granules, the balls, to cover up mistakes. But also those granules give certain type of beauty to it. And main beauty of handwork is no piece is ever made the same because it's made by hand. People usually ask how long did it take you to master it? How many of those did I fail? And I always say there's a movie, Karate Kid, and it's always like wax on, wax off. It's like a lot of mistakes in order to get to where it is. Then all 6-1 gets filled, then lifted and assembled, which ends up in a final product looking like this. So button is silver gold plated. The product button was made for national costume, and everyone in the village had to have it and wear it. Therefore, there was rare people had it made from gold, and most of it was made silver than gold plated. The only chance to display wealth and the richness of someone was to have a bigger and more decorated one. The bigger ones require more time, and it's a bit more complicated, the filling type, and as I said, the small granules that cover up mistakes, because none of these holes are the same or the filling, and which is the beauty of a handwork.
So how long it takes for you to finish this big filigree button?
Depends on whether I have the material prepared, because we have to make it all from scratch. But if we have the wires, it would take up to 3-4 days to make one. But if we make a series of them, or if it's pre-ordered, it gets faster because you get the hand of it, how to shape. For example, these ones have more fields and different type of filling. So if you make more of those in the same period, you get the hand of it, how to fill it faster.
So you're saying nothing is done by machines?
No.
Everything you do is fire and hands and pulling and stretching?
Yes, basically yes.
That's you should be proclaimed a saint when it comes to your patience.
I know that there are more patient people.
But takes a lot of patience to do this.
Yes.
I have tried to do this, but I decided to keep my day job, and it's much easier to do the talking for the living than this. Thank you, Giorgio, very much. We're now located on the Green Market, the most vibrant place in the old city. This is the place where locals bring vegetables and fruits every morning from areas around the city, such as Konavle, which we will later visit. So if you're in pursuit of green goods, this is your place. One of the oldest and one of our favorite restaurants in the city is right behind me, easily recognizable by its blue and white stripes on chairs, and that restaurant's name is Kamenice. Kamenice in Croatian means oysters, and 60 kilometers away there is a beautiful town called Ston where we grow oysters. They bring them each morning, and all of you that are oyster lovers do not miss here any of their seafood or oysters themselves. If ever being tired of walking around, it's time to let the others do the work instead of you. And that cable car comes in very handy. One of our city's most visited rides is this one that takes you up on the mountain. It's actually a hill, 460 meters above the sea level, with unforgettable view of the old city of Dubrovnik. Looking this way, in a few moments, we're going to see some of the most impressive sights our country has to offer. So finally here, above the old city, you can see the Adriatic Sea, the island of Locrum, right over there, and some boats going in and out of the old harbor. This is a very scenic point because you can actually see two countries from here. So right behind me you can see Croatia and Dubrovnik, and they say that during nice weather you can see Italy. Trust me, I have been here many times, but you really have to be more than a human to go that far. However, if you turn around, right over there, those barren hills that you can see, that's the territory of our neighboring country of Bosnia and Herzegovina. So this part of Croatia is very narrow, and it's quite impressive that looking at that side you can see Mediterranean, Renaissance, Gothic architecture, and right over there the barren mountains of Balkans. So once you get off the cable car, it's a fairly short 2-minute walk from cable car to Fort Imperial, where you can see one of our city's most interesting museums, and that's a museum of Homeland War in 1991. Every Mediterranean country is very proud on its olive oils. Now, we took a 20-minute ride to see one of Croatia's most proud olive makers called Mato Dubelj, who lives in a village called Orašac, just 20 minutes outside of the city of Dubrovnik. As you can see, his beautiful garden and house are something which is a village paradise where he and his family are growing various vegetables. But the most important thing they do is all about the olives. Besides having your own olives or buying someone else's olives, you need to extract the oil. Now today they have modern technology to do that, but in the old days it was quite a job. So fortunately, Mr. Mato, he preserved his old oil press, and today we're gonna see how his horse had one of the most important roles in doing the hard work. So time to meet the man himself, Mr. Mato.
Oh, dobar dan. Hello.
How are you doing? Welcome.
Okay. Please, welcome.
Sure, why not? Oh, it's so cool. Mr. Mato, we're very happy to be here, and we are eager to see how did you extract olive oil out of olives?
This is a very old mill for produce olive oil. I think this is 260-year-old. This mill, and in the past, in this village, many people lives with produce olive oil. In this village, we have 17 mills, same this house, smaller or bigger, but complete 17 stop produce olive oil in traditional system. Why? Now we have the new press in village which made 1,000 kilo for 1 hour. When the produce here, inside go 200 kilo and work 1 hour and a half. It's very different.
Huge difference.
Now, you can look when we produce olive oil in the past.
So after the horses did a hard work and they've squashed 200 kilos of olives, we have this paste. Now we need to filter the paste by placing it inside of these coconut bags.
The coconut bags put inside, yes.
And then we put inside of the press.
Yes.
And then you can see the mechanical process, how it applies pressure, and then the olive oil comes out into this collective pool.
These bags stay out, and one bags go inside, one pot olive paste, and 13 piece, 13 pots, and start the press. First time, about 70% oil go out. And second time, we put up the press, little made these bags, and come back to press with 10 liter hot water. Now we presentation second press with hot water. Oil and water go together down in pool, water inside go out and oil stay top. After, by hand, we take this oil.
Dođi za njome,
Now the press go down and oil and water go out. Excuse me. Two people start work here, one and here work 3 people. 2 people start work here, and 3rd people put the new olive in mill for next mill. Oil and water go out, and by hand now we take oil. Oil is the top, water is down. This is the oil.
So after a lot of work, and we have a final result, and that would be this beautiful olive oil. Now I wonder why it's such a golden color in it.
Golden color is when we take olive oil in about December. In December, the olive fruit is finished. A black olive and mixed with green, it is this color, gold color.
So you're saying that if you have a higher percentage of black olives, then you have a golden color.
Here in this area, in this village, we made olive oil when we have about 70% black olive, 30% green. It is this mix, it's this color.
Thank you, Martin. Thank you very much. So after hard work, I believe you deserve some refreshments. Do you have some ideas who might help us with that?
This is my wife, Anka.
Hello, hello.
Anka, dobar dan. Kako je?
Hello.
Dobro.
Hoćeš li govori na hrvatski ili na engleski?
Each time I see you, you have more beautiful. You look younger and younger.
Ja sad ne mogu to.
Znači, mlađe i mlađe.
Kaže, a sve ste ljepše i ljepše, mlađe i mlađe.
Thank you. Hvala.
So, you're saying you prepared all this for us?
Yes.
Yes.
Everything product my family.
So we don't have a choice, we have to take a seat.
Now you can sit and you can test, yes.
Please, Anka. This looks amazing.
Malo podaj.
So Anka, you're saying everything we see here comes from your garden.
Yes.
Yes.
Sve iz vašega vrta.
Pa, uglavnom sve. Ovo baš je sve.
Yes. Reci, što se bojiš?
Yes, everything is my garden. You're looking tomatoes, but pear, big tree. Cucumber here, tomatoes, paprika, chili, and sunfire, cherry tomatoes, olives, prosciutto, cheese in oil.
So samphire is one of the rarest things that you can find. It's a special plant that grows right out of the rock by the seaside. So you have to go and collect it and then you marinate it, and it's considered to be a local delicatessen. So Mate and Anka, how long is your family here in the village?
Our family live here 70 years, about 70 years. My father come from Herzegovina here, and by land and made home, and we live here 70 years. And we have 3 children, one son and 2 girls, 2 daughters, and we live here, and my son same live here. It is a tradition family job. Complete family work in this job.
So you already say you have somebody that will continue the tradition? Imate nekoga ko će nastaviti tradiciju?
Yes. My son work here, but now is now in home. He work with together, but now is a little job, but work together. My son is the same for 2 years. She won't work around the olive tree, and same here.
Amazing.
Yes. Now you can test our product and olive oil.
Definitely, I will not miss this opportunity.
Samo će nije još ulje.
Može. So we decided to leave the city of Dubrovnik, and we took a 40-minute drive to a beautiful countryside area of Konavle. It's one beautiful fertile field surpassed with 30 villages, and those villagers developed something quite unique, and that is a special embroidery and the most beautiful national costumes in Croatia. There is an artist that I would like you to meet today, and her name is Antonija Rusković, and she understands this better than anyone in the region, and she brought back to life this ancient tradition that was kept as a secret by women of Konavle. All right, so Antonija is waiting for us inside, and let's see what her secrets are all about. Hola, dobro jutro. Dobar dan. Lijepo mi te vidjeti, znaš, kao i uvijek. All right. So this is one of the most interesting galleries that you can find in Croatia, and the real miracle happens one floor above. So shall we go? So every time I come here, it's kind of an eye-opener, and I will never forget the first time when I came here to see you. I was literally overwhelmed with how different this place is than any other museum you can find anywhere. It's it's full of life. Everything reads art and tradition, and it's so kind of intertwined beautifully.
Because you're trying to live it.
Yes.
You're trying
yes.
to make all these traditional things alive, to present it more intensively to people. You know, museums are different. Museums are cases, and public come and see, and we live it. We're trying to understand those people from those ancient times.
So you're an academic painter.
Yes, professionally, yes, I'm a painter. But all my life I was into this tradition thanks to my old grandmother who raised us. And she taught us all those traditional skills and embroidery and silk production, and we had to behave in a proper traditional way. So it was like a huge problem when you're a child. But now I'm so grateful because I have some kind of a touch with this ancient time that the contemporary world just pushed away from us. And there's so much to learn from it. It's not a romantic issue, it's the fact that there's so much to learn. It's so sustainable, it's so easy life, it's so wonderful.
If I remember correctly, this whole craft and knowledge and art and tradition almost was on the verge of extinction. It almost disappeared. And when did you decide to pursue the preservation of this?
It was immediately after the war in '91 when I came from the university. I started working in schools and I realized that people and the children have no idea what the embroidery is, how is it done. They have never seen silkworm, they had never seen the cow giving milk and all those things. And it was like a gap. Those few years of war, we were refugees. People came home, restored the houses, and they started living completely urban type of life. And it was a huge damage that was done to the tradition. House you restore, forest you plant again, but when you lose intangible, it's horrible. That's the major thing. Today, it is like 20 years after it, the situation is completely different. In the region of Konavle, every child has seen the silkworm because we work so much with schools, we did so much work with universities, high schools, children, those children who were 4 or 5 at that age, now they are adults that have children and they are into silkworm, so there is some kind of a future to it.
Those of you that are kind of new to the area of Konavle, this is on the very borders between Bosnia and Herzegovina and Montenegro, and unfortunately in the 90s it was an area which was heavily affected by a war of collapse of Yugoslavia. So many of the houses here were burned and all of these beautiful embroideries almost disappeared.
This is the destiny of those bordered regions. Every time there is some messing up on the Balkans, our region is burned. When Napoleon was here, in the morning Napoleon was burning it, in the afternoon Russians were burning it. So this is the border. But just because of this, it developed special cultural heritage, special intangible heritage that was very well kept throughout the centuries. So we preserve so many things that other Mediterranean regions abandoned. We still communicate through our embroidery. We still wear the national costume that is the same shape and form like it was 2000 years ago, like tunica dalmatica. It is something that you can make with knife. You don't need scissors with it. Everything is square. So we just preserved so much, and that's why this region is so precious. It just gives the cue to all those ancient times that we can only read about. Here you can just feel it.
So the moment of excitement is in front of us. We're gonna see Antonia's babies, those little worms that make the whole silk world possible. Should we take a look?
Yes, we're gonna see. So this is this year's 3rd cycle, and that's why we keep it so small. The first one was we had 16 beds of the silkworms, and now this is the phase of the 20 days. Look at them. Hold it. So these little ones have maybe 8 or 10 more days to the end, to making the cocoons. And when they make cocoons, they'll get into this. And in this they will stay for 15 days, and after 15 days they will come out as little butterflies, and those butterflies will mate and they will give the eggs for the new cycle. These are the eggs for the next cycle that I'm trying to hatch now for the next cycle. So I'm opening the new one already, so next week we'll have babies.
So what keeps them warm? What used to keep them warm?
Well, traditionally, and that's the way I do it too, traditionally this was done in March when the mulberry tree leaf starts with the little leaves. We take the eggs to the church for benediction, the priest gives them some good vibes. And then when we come home, we put it like this and we put it here and we wear it. And it was always the girl's job before the marriage day. So girls were told always not to fight, not to quarrel, because they feel everything. When you wear them, you have to be very nice. And because if they don't feel welcome, they won't come to you. And then every morning you take it out to take a look if there's anybody hatched. If not, put it back. But one morning when we open this, it will be all of them hatched. And we put the small chopped leaves on top of them. They climb, and then with those leaves we transfer them to the beds, and they start to grow. So we feed them for 28 days, and then they are these cute little caterpillars, which are clean, which are domestic and completely independent to us. They have so many enemies. Ants eat them, birds eat them, geckos eat them, everybody wants to eat them. So we have to keep them safe in the houses. We have to clean their beds every night. They want to be on a clean bed, they don't like to be in dirt. And then they give us silk.
They are like a bunch of babies having fun, and you
Yes.
take care of them.
Yes, it's like an addiction now. You don't do it for anybody but yourself to have this little touch. And imagine all those in traditional times, all those girls in the villages feeding their own silkworms to produce their own silk for their own embroideries, for tidying up the umbilical cords of their babies when they give the birth, tidying up the hands and the legs of the dead when they die. There is so much of this silk in the most important days in our lives in Cornwall. But unfortunately, traditions are gone.
So when it's made into cocoon, how do we get the silk then?
I'll show you, but let me just tell you that each cocoon is 1 kilometer of a silk thread.
Wow.
1 kilometer. So this is the only filament on planet Earth that is this long. All other filaments that we have, wool, cotton, they are small, and we have to spin them. That's why we have spinning wheels, we have the staffs and all those things. But silk is immediately a kilometer, and that makes it the strongest material. Bearing capacity of silk is much bigger than bearing capacity of steel, believe it or not. So that's why it's used in medicine. That's why it's used for parachutes. Silk is incredible material. And those little creatures are eating it.
It almost seems magic.
Yeah. So I'll show you now how we take the silk
All
thread
right.
out. We'll put the cocoons from the last year. These are dried old cocoons that the silkworms never came out. We'll put it in a hot water. I'll use the branch from any wood, any branch, but I like this one very much. So we just wait a little bit for them to kindly give the thread to us, and then the miracle will happen in a minute. You ready?
Yeah.
So, look at this. Every cocoon will give it little tiny thread, and they will all glue into the thread of the size that we want. So if we put many cocoons up there, it will be thicker thread. If we put, see? You see it?
Unbelievable. Yeah.
So this was the job of the winter's night in the houses. Girls were sitting around the fire, taking the silk thread out, preparing it for their embroideries.
So you're saying this was never an industry, it was always something...
No. This was something that was very intimate, done in the houses, done only by girls, never by married women, never by boys and men. And this was like gold produced in the houses for themselves. So girls would make all their decorations on the costume from this thread. They would use it for some stitching, for whatever. And they will produce every year as much as they need for that year. That's why it has never been industry here. Look how it goes. All those filaments are gluing into the one. Would you like to try?
Sure.
Come.
I'm not sure if your grandmother would like
No,
a
she
man
won't,
to
but
do
we
this.
won't. We won't tell her. No.
I could hardly make a living. Oh, I already messed it up.
No, this is the one that this is in the beginning, and after on it just goes smoothly.
It seemed so easy when I was looking at you doing that.
It is easy. It's meditative. You know, we are always saying that in Cornwall the women are living much, much longer than their husbands, and this is because of this meditative
Yeah,
job.
it has a relaxing thing to it. So more of these cocoons, you.
The thicker the thread.
All right.
Because they all glue together and they create same one. So if you put 200 cocoons in there, you won't be able to break it. No way. You can go fishing with it. But this is maybe 20 cocoons, and it's enough for some very fine embroidery or for some nice tassels or some stitching. But usually we put around 50 for what we do. And this unwashed thread immediately is very good for stitching on white because it's yellow, and this yellow color is color of the glue of the caterpillar. When we wash it, it will be white, but very subtle and white. So we use this unwashed yellow for stitching on white to easily see the stitches. And then you wash the whole thing. So there are many practical things here to it. It's really wonderful.
Should I keep my day job?
You're welcome.
So, if I understand correctly, you wrote this impressive book. This is what I call a book, and everything is consisted inside. And it's all about making these embroideries. So, what are the similarities and differences?
It's not only about making embroideries, it's about the message they are sending through these different patterns. Here in this region, those girls developed different types of the patterns, stitch patterns that are worn in different situations, different occasions. So by the embroidery the girl puts on herself, you know everything. If she's married, not married, poor, rich, widow, if she's going to church or to work, or there is a sorrow in the village, whatever. So we say in the region that the luckiest women wear all their or her embroideries because she makes them all before the marriage, and then throughout the life she wears them. So unfortunately, if she becomes a widow in her 30s, she's not allowed to wear any happy one till the end of her life. So all of them are left behind unworn. So it's a wonderful story about this little piece of embroidered cloth, and it's mostly done by silk thread, and as far as we track it in, we know for them last 400 years for the stitched shirts and stitched embroidered pieces. And what is important is that we are trying to keep it alive, because still the 80s women were still doing this, and today some children are attending the workshops and that's it. It's just vanishing.
So you're saying that in the 1960s and 70s, women were still changing for
Yes.
each different occasion?
Yes, of course.
Baptism,
Of course.
burial.
Yes, because it's like today if you go to church in a bathing suit. They felt this unpoliteness of wearing embroidery that is not appropriate for some occasion for another. They took care about this. But today, for the folkloric reasons, they wear anyone they have in the house. So we're losing it slowly. So that's why I took the effort to research and find the old patterns and publish them to keep them somewhere. And we managed to get the protection of the Ministry of Culture. It became a national heritage of the Republic of Croatia. And just don't forget that it is done only between these 10,000 people in the region. It's not Croatian embroidery, it's the little corner of the region embroidery.
I was really, there was an article about a discovery that you found. It's not only the symbolicism, there is also something mathematical,
Yes,
which is
the
happening
numbers, which
behind.
are everywhere in all those ancient things. People were so much connected with the nature and natural geometry that they just unconsciously transferred it into their handcrafts. So some patterns, for example, that are worn for marriages and for engaged girls or pregnant girls have these numbers inside: 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, and that is Fibonacci. That is golden ratio. 1 and 2 is 3, 3 and 2 is 5, 5 and 3 is 8. So this need of reproducing and creating life, they transferred, not knowing anything about mathematics, not knowing anything about astronomy or Fibonacci or whatever. They just living completely inside the nature and repeating these rhythms. And that's what we miss today so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank
This
you.
has been an amazing thing. And whenever in Dubrovnik, remember it's just 40 minutes outside of the city. You can come to the world that most of people in Croatia hardly really know about. It's a micro universe, and it's absolutely sensational. Thank you so much.
Thank
Antonio.
you. Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Some of you will be very excited to taste some of Croatia's wine. That's the reason why we came here in front of Carević family winery to show you the abundance of taste and flavor of the local wines. Oh,
Hey,
how are you doing?
good, good.
Very nice to see you.
Yeah,
It's been a while.
yes.
So I heard that there is a lot new projects going on.
Yeah, you want to check it out?
Of course.
Let's go to the vineyard.
Sure.
Okay.
So Peter, you say that right here in this vineyard you have a whole new project. Can you tell us something about that?
Yes, I want to make a Bordeaux blend from these varieties here: Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Cabernet Franc, and Petit Verdot, fermented and aged in amphoras in clay.
That's something new. Where did you get the idea?
From the old guys from Georgia.
Ah,
So in Georgia, about 8,000 years ago, they found out that there was oldest winery, oldest cellar, and they made wines in amphoras back then.
so when do you consider the experiment will be, let's say, ready to sample?
Ready to sample 2023 probably.
I'm a very impatient person, but you can count me in.
All right.
So after seeing all the vineyards, I believe time to taste some. And I heard that you have a special key,
Yes.
and your name is Peter.
Yes.
So what's it all about?
This is the gates of heaven.
All right.
A cellar door. And this is my key, St. Peter's key. Let's go in.
After you, Peter. Thanks for
wait.
the green light. So Peter, what's the difference between winemaking in socialist Yugoslavia during your father's period and compared to today what you do?
So, up until the beginning of the 60s, people were making wines as they were before. Then came the new laws with the buildings of the new wineries, and these new wineries were huge wineries which were centered on production of the quantity, not the quality. Only very few wines were actually being made in a very high quality wines. That changed in the 90s when those old wineries collapsed, and with the emergence of the new market, new wineries emerged, small private family wineries. They didn't do much wine, but they centered on a high quality wines, and that's continued up until today. And today in Croatia we have about around 3,800 wineries.
Peter, a question is about this white wine here.
Yes.
It's called Malasia of Dubrovnik area.
Yes.
What can you tell us? What makes it so different as a sort, and why do you like it so much?
Well, first of all, I like it so much because it was my first stomping as a child on the grapes. We had the first harvest of it in 1999, and I immediately fell in love with the wine when the wine was made. When I tasted it, it was the best taste ever I've tried as a kid. The variety itself, it's very, very old. It was for the first time mentioned here in the Dubrovnik area in 1383, when Boston king asked for permission if he could buy the wine from the Dubrovnik Republic. It was made in very small quantities back then, and it was again mentioned in 1424 officially, when there was a law which said whoever has this wine, he could sell it at any price he would like. So all other wines had price limits. Therefore, it was the best wine they had in those times, and it was given as a gift to many church people and the royalties that would come to Dubrovnik, as it was mostly drank by the Dubrovnik royalties.
So you're saying that it was used as a secret weapon of diplomacy.
Of course, yes.
So God knows what we can tell. If we drink a little bit more, are we going to talk more than we're
Yes,
supposed to?
Definitely. Yeah.
Cheers to that.
Cheers.
So time to say a few words about this red wine. You say it's your favorite?
Yes, my favorite. It's the first blend I made when I came back from college. I wanted to make something different, and I blended Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, and Vlaho Carević. Vlaho Carević is a variety that's grown only in Dalmatia, which is related to Californian Zinfandel. And Zinfandel also originates from Dalmatia. The first time it was mentioned in the end of 15th century. Plus, I added 1% of Malvasia as my own thing, as being inspired. And thus, being inspired, when I first tasted this wine after I blended it, I came up with a poem. And me being me, I forgot the poem, but my cousin in the village, who I ran to when I made the wine to share the wine with him, heard the poem, and it's probably written somewhere in the wind.
Oh,
Yes.
so what were your father's reactions when you decided to blend? They don't do much blends here.
No, he liked it, but he was very careful with it. So it was my time of having to show my skill and my ability to him that I can do it.
You're the champion as far as I'm concerned.
Cheers. It's very silky. I sometimes drink this wine only as a way of contemplating.
It is special wine.
Yeah.
So Peter, we are very eager to hear about your family and about the production of wines you do here.
Well, the family's been here, as far as we know it, since the beginning of the 15th century. But the winemaking we started in this wine cellar here at the end of 19th century. My great-grandfather was the first one to start, and then my grandfather and his son, my dad, continued. In the 90s, when the capitalism came, actually my dad was the first one here in Konava to start like a real operation company and started planting vines. Many people thought he's crazy, like where he would sell his wine, because the market was still undeveloped. But little by little, here we are. So.
But if I understood right, you're the first generation that went out and you graduated at University in Zagreb.
Yeah. In 2006 I started. 2011 I sort of ended, but still I had one more exam to go. Bad times, but I finally made it, and I came back in 2011. So 9 years of winemaking and serving wine and food to guests here.
One of the things impressed me most when it comes to your idea of wines is that besides that I know that you're very passionate about arts and music and drama, Croatian wines are very hard to pronounce, and the way you labeled your wines is something exceptional. You've named them after famous characters from our theater plays here in Croatia. So each of them has a different character. When did you come with that idea?
When I was learning for one exam, I had epiphany to name first Tesoro, which means treasure, and then Negromant, which means like a black mantis, and that's the alter ego of this writer Maritime, which he introduces into this play he wrote. And then came the other names of the wines afterwards, and that was my victory that I finally managed to rebrand the wines and go in the right direction after I came back from college. My dad was first not so satisfied with it, but then as the market accepted it, grew, things get better.
So after learning and tasting some of Croatia's finest wines, time to explore its gastronomy and some local foods. We're gonna leave this beautiful village and just drive a couple of minutes further to discover another family which will be our host for our lunch. Another beautiful location in the countryside area of Konavle, and time to meet another family, and that is Novaković family. What these people did is really majestic. 4 generations living under the same roof, keeping the old family traditions and opening their family restaurants where they cherish our local cuisine. O, dobar dan, Novakovići!
Dobrodošli.
Pozdrav, do Pero! Niko moj, kako ste?
Dobro, Konavovski, dobrodošli i osjećajte se kao kod kuće u ovoj kući.
Mr. Pero, who would be, of course, a father to our chef of the day, Nico, wished you a traditional greeting in Konavle area. One of the most welcoming faces in the area is definitely Mr. Pero Novaković. He made a difference here in the village, opening his households to the world to show them what the tradition here really stands for. So he likes to say that his wife is in charge of the family and he's her gardener, and he's very proud about his garden because they have more than 36 different kinds of plants, fruits, vegetables, and all different kinds of wonders inside. So he's going to be our guide through his garden.
Ok, thank you.
Evo, sad mi idemo tu.
Je. I sad ćemo mi nalaziti oko 1 hektar od 20 hektara koje smo posjedovali.
Mr. Pero said that this garden is just one fraction of garden that they used to have before, and they have 1 hectare of land which is now farmed.
Od 20 koje smo obrađivali u mom djetinjstvu. Ja sam ovdje rođen pred 87 godina.
Oh my God, Mr. Pero just revealed his age and saying that he's 87 years old.
Born here.
Born here in this very village. Wow!
I u to doba smo radili 20 hektara zemlje, imali stotine ovaca, krava, konja i tako. Sad je ovo hektar više suvenirski.
Mr. Pero just told us a story of his childhood when they used to farm 20 times more land than they do today. But he said that he remembers those times when they had sheep, when they had goats, cows, and various animals around him.
Vino, ulje i tako da.
What you will find very interesting here in Dalmatia and in this part of our country is that they are pretty much self-efficient houses. So every household produces from vegetables their own fruits, their own wine.
Yes, mogu 30 vrsta povrća, voća.
30 different kinds of fruits and vegetables.
Ovo je rastan, kupus, domaći, kao.
This is a cabbage which they grow here.
Lokal cabbage.
Local cabbage.
Za mirise Božića.
Pero, što je ovo tamo?
Ovo su tikvijeji za juhu. Ovo su tikvice, dalje su paradajz, pomadore, tomaten, ruže, kombinacije, ima malo cvijeća, malo povrće, lavanda, a ovo je gumno.
No Pero, što mi možete reći, što je ovdje, gdje mi sad stojimo ovdje?
Mi stojimo sad na jednom posebnom objektu koji je u mome djetinjstvu, znači kad se živjelo isključivo ovdje od poljoprivrede, gumno koje treba imati svaka veća kuća da bi mogla donije pšenicu, sočivo, uvesti konje i
So Mr. Pero is saying that this actually, in his childhood, used to be the very center of their household, because this was the place where all harvested goods were brought, then cleaned and prepared to be stored inside of the house.
Doveli se konji, onda bi konji vršili, slava bi se odnijela u štalu, pokupilo bi se žito, pahalo se, bacalo se u zrak i išlo u mlin samljet da bi se jelo. Živjelo se isključivo od zemlje. Nije bilo trgovine, nije bilo struje, nije bilo vode, nije bilo ničega nego što si rodilo na zemlji, to smo morali jesti.
Mr. Pero said that this was a very part where you used to have horses, they used to make hay here, and at the times when he was a boy here, there was no electricity, and there was no trade, there was no tourism, no water, so they had to do it all. So we just came in time to see how Nico is going to do his work around one of our country's favorite dishes, and that's food under the iron bell. So, Nico, ti ćeš sad onda ovo skinuti ovaj žar, jel tako i...
Da. Okay, I'll move those.
So as you can see, there is a lot of hot charcoals, and they heat bricks which apply temperature from the bottom, and then after a while he's going to put those hot charcoals on top, and that's where the magic actually takes place, because this is a flirt between roasted and steamed flavor.
Basically, this is a cooking, because you need to heat the surface, and after the fire is good, you move the fire and put the oven on the heat surface with the food inside. And after 1 hour, you need to cover the food.
Mamma mia!
Prosti, ovako samo ćemo postaviti ovo. And we need to see what's going on inside. As you can see, this is the potatoes on the top, and down on the bottom is the meat. It is a wheel. Okay, this is a wheel. And after 1 hour, you need to switch the food. Potatoes goes down, and the wheel goes up. And all those liquid inside are actually the steam, because you cover the food with those iron bell and it's baked and cooked in the steam. Okay. Now put back the surface. Cover it with bell. And now I need to bake the meat. I put those rings on the top and the fire. So this is not cooking anymore, now it's baking. We need to bake about 15 or 20 minutes. And every 10 or 15 minutes we need to uncover it and check it what's going on with it. So what the family Novakovic is always achieving and doing is they try to make garden to table experience. So all of these beautiful products you find here are actually from this very area. Cheese with peppers, special sorts of jam, local ham, and once you get here, you really get the flavor of the local area. I'm very excited as a schoolboy to get the fire started. Evet,
Ma mogu ja i sam, ajde, nekako.
Znači ja povištam. Imam izbora.
Super.
Okay, this is the process after 1 hour and 45 minutes. That's it.
So now we are going to enjoy this wonderful food that Nico prepared for us and some wonderful salads from Mr. Pero's garden, and I hope that you're going to come and join us pretty soon. Thanks for joining us. I hope you've enjoyed in our exploration of Dubrovnik and its countryside, and we hope to see you in our hometown very soon. I hope you've enjoyed looking at our video of Dubrovnik and that it looks teasing to you and that you'll come and visit us very soon. Now time for some Q&As, and we have some questions coming in, and I would like to give answers to some of them. We have Alex Matthews from Boston, and the question is, very interesting to see how the buttons were made. What other items are made? At that jewelry shop, they produce pretty much all of the local jewelry, and each small region around the city of Dubrovnik has their own jewelry pieces. And some of them take 6 months to make. It requires a lot of patience, and it's a process. So you can really see about 15 different kinds of products there. We have Jonathan Adams from Texas, US. Thank you for the lovely tour. You're welcome. I didn't know Croatia produced wine. How many wine producers are there in Croatia? There are countless producers. And yes, in Croatia we do make a lot of wine. Not as the bigger countries around the world, but we have two different types of climate. Here on the coast where it's warm, and the continental climate, inlands, and really all different kinds of wines you can imagine. So do try some. Here in Dubrovnik, we're known for our reds to have a full body. So if you like Californian wine, here you'll feel like you're in paradise. Lisa Smithson from Chicago, Illinois. The gardens at local homes look very picturesque. Are there any public gardens to visit? In Dubrovnik, we have more like city parks, and they're of course open to visits. And nearby in Dubrovnik, there is a beautiful arboretum that you can go and visit, and that's definitely for people that are in nature and botanics. We have Jacqueline Barrett from Oklahoma. She says, the weather looks beautiful. Does it get very hot in Dubrovnik during summertime? Yes, it's very hot. It's in between 90 and 100 in the warmest months, and it's humid, so make sure you have some sun protection and of course a lot of water to drink, but the views will compensate because it's beautiful and it's pleasant in the shade, and the mornings and evenings are absolutely perfect. Sarah from Canada. Is the salt from Croatia well known across the world? Almost until recently, Croatia wasn't known much around the world, and yet the products of Croatia, but it's becoming more and more popular. It's really a great quality salt, and I believe in future time to come it will be quite known worldwide. Sandy Carl from New York. The bar you visit looks lovely. Can you eat there? They have all different kinds of pastries there. So if you're for coffee, tea, and something sweet, they can offer you something like that. But loads of restaurants in the city of Dubrovnik, and you'll have really great choices once you're here. And from Canada again, British Columbia. Wow, Dubrovnik looks spectacular. Thank you. We have Jeff from London. Do you get a chance to travel much yourself? I love to travel, and if it's private or business related, it's definitely one of my greatest passions. So really love to travel the globe. Sarah from California. When is the best time to visit Dubrovnik? We want to visit in spring. Personally, Dubrovnik has 4 seasons that are worth visiting, so each of them has something to offer. I like wintertime most, but my second best would be springtime because it ticks most of the boxes. You have pleasant weather, it's very warm, and you can even swim sometimes if you are not used to too warm waters. And not too many people at a time, and it's definitely beautiful. So springtime is like the best time to visit, but personally I would also encourage you to come in wintertime. John Irving from Miami, Florida. What is one of your favorite things to see or do in Dubrovnik? I'm in love with the city, and I just like to find a nice spot and look at the city, because once you're there, once you're looking at so many things, you really don't have enough time sometimes to sit and really absorb all the beauty that the city has to offer. So I like to find a nice viewpoint and admire different areas in the city. It will always surprise you. We have Jack Shepherd from Leeds, UK. Thank you for showing us the cable car. How long do they take to get to the top, and how much does it cost to ride on them? The ride itself lasts a little bit less than 4 minutes time, and the price varies each season. They do change it slightly, but roughly it's around 150 kunas, which is roughly speaking about $25 or a little bit less than 20 euros. So you can always check. They have a lovely website, and you can always have an updated information on that, but that's the price roughly. So the next question is from Ronan, Dublin, Ireland. Beautiful. Is there a place to buy a coffee at the top of the mountain when you get off the cable car again? It looks a stunning place to visit. Yes, you have a lovely bar at the top. It has a series of small terraces, and if you like to have coffee under the sun umbrella and enjoy the beautiful views, but it also has an interior which is fully in glass, so you have air-conditioned air inside, and it's not as windy sometimes on the windier days. So yes, you have both options. You can also eat there. They have a restaurant there, and I would certainly recommend it. Daniela from Glasgow, Scotland. How is coronavirus in Croatia? Well, the global pandemic definitely got everyone worried, and Croatia really did a applied very firm and strict laws, and we did pretty well in the springtime, and up to this day occasionally it pops out. Sometimes it's pretty safe. So it's obligatory to have a mask if you're in enclosed areas, and it's mandatory to sanitize your hands going in and out of interior spaces. The Mark Evans from Long Beach, California, thank you for showing us Dubrovnik. The city looks amazing. I can't wait to visit. You're welcome. Thank you very much. Elliot Hansen, I think you can catch a boat over to the island of Lokrum. Could you tell us more about this island? The island of Lokrum is like a garden of a stone city. That's where all the lush and all the green comes out, and there is a botanical garden there, and it's just a 10 minutes boat ride. It's a beautiful place. I personally just love to take some swimsuit and beach towel, and there are 2 lovely bars and a restaurant there. So you can enjoy the shade, you can have a little swim around, and if you're active and you like hikes, definitely you can go to the top to see a beautiful round fort called Fort Royal, which was built in 19th century by Napoleon's troops. The island itself was believed to be cursed, so no one is supposed to own the island for themselves privately. So there is a ghost which causes troubles to all those that do claim the island for themselves. So the point here is that it's open, it's public, and you can go and visit. It's really gorgeous. Karen Walsh from Warrington, UK. Are there any art museums in Dubrovnik? Yes, you have National Art Gallery, which is a beautiful place just about 5 minutes on foot out of Ploče Gates. That's the east exit of the city. You walk up the hill and you have spectacular view over the old harbor and the island of Lokrum and the sea in general, and they really have different kinds of exhibits every year. You have a modern art museum, which is very small inside of down behind the Rector's Palace, and you can see some of Dubrovnik's best artists in last century. And of course, if you like sacred art, you have cathedral, you have Dominican monastery, and you have Franciscan monastery. They have very interesting collections. So I guess this covered some of questions and answers, and thank you for sending all these wonderful questions. We hope to see you in Dubrovnik very soon. Thank you.